Well, Merry Christmas, one and all. If you saw the video that I had at the very start of this video, you can see that apparently we've gone back in time to around Christmas or early January. We are in the midst of a 2-day, maybe into 3-day snowstorm. We are getting absolutely pummeled, and it's quite ridiculous. We have had a horrible, miserable spring so far. March and April, we've got snow, we've got rain, we've got temperatures way below normal. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I am hoping and praying that maybe by the time this video gets out, I may actually be able to be on the road again. Maybe, hopefully, but who really knows? But anyway, enough about that miserable story. Let's get on to another one. This video is going to be about my dealership experience buying this lovely 2023 Lowrider S. And the buying experience, I have to say, was probably the worst I have ever had, whether it's been buying a car or buying a motorcycle. And we're going to go through that. Now, I will say this is probably going to be a longer video than a lot of you guys are used to seeing me post, so I want you to sit back and relax, maybe grab yourself a beverage, and let me regale you on this miserable tale. So the buying experience with this, like I said before, was, in my opinion, very rough. I had basically three main issues, and I'm going to go through them. Now, this is my 8th Harley Davidson that I've had over my lifetime. 6 of the 8 I bought through dealerships. 4 of them have been brand new. Now, I usually use a certain dealership when I buy bikes. They've always treated me well. The issue was that Harley Davidson went, over the last couple years or so, closed a lot of dealerships, and the one I usually use was one of the ones that was closed. That was October 2021, I believe. So this dealership was owned by a power sports company. They have another dealership. And I was told that if you ever want to buy a new bike, go to this dealership because they will treat you right. Now, I've never dealt with this dealership before, but I trusted the previous one. So I thought, I'll give these guys a shot. I'd only ever been to their dealership once, which is odd, seeing as how I've been riding for just over 20 years. But I thought, I will give these guys a shot and we'll find out. So I had a 2021 Fat Boy, which I ended up trading in on the Lowrider. And I wasn't actually planning on doing it, which is a story in itself, which I've been over in a previous video. So I talked to the salesman. I said I wanted some work done on the bike before I got it. And we went back and forth. We came up with an amount, and we kind of got the payment set up and signed an agreement to purchase, put some money down. The bike was ordered. And at that point, which was about February 21st, I think, I was told basically, you're looking at a 2 to 4 week turnaround. The bike wasn't in stock. It had to be ordered. But that's what I was looking at. And at that time, I was excited. I was pumped for it at that point. But it wasn't long after that I started having the issues. So the first issue I will discuss is the valuation of the trade-in. Now, obviously, people trade in bikes because it's convenient, quite frankly, and that's what it is. I did not want to sell the bike privately. I have done that before. I do not like doing that and haggling with people. And the price I was given to begin with, I thought was very fair. So I was fine with it. Now, this dealership, I should say, is not in town. It's not in my area. It's about 2.5 hours away from me. So a few days after we'd made the deal, they came and they picked up my Fat Boy. and took it in. And they had it for about a week or more maybe. And I hadn't seen it up on the site, hadn't heard anything from the dealership. Now, usually when I trade in a bike, it's usually up on the site right away. They don't usually wait. They don't want bikes just sitting there. So I thought, oh, I'm going to message them, just see what's up. Because the last bike I traded in, it was sold within a day. So I wondered, maybe that happened again. Who knows? Maybe someone from the dealership wanted it. So I messaged the salesman and he says, well, the mechanics are just looking at it now. And I thought, that's odd. Like it took them, a week or more to actually look at the bike. That's strange, but okay. And then not long after, maybe 15, 20 minutes later, I got another message saying, well, we have a problem. The bike needs $1,700 in repairs. So we're going to devalue your trade-in, and that $1,700 will be put on your financing, which means payments are going to go up. Now, I thought I didn't like that. We'll put it that way. So I said to him, well, you got to tell me what the issues are. And he says, well, the tires are both down to the wear bars, and it needs a clutch adjustment. Okay, so let's deal with that. Let's deal with the tires first. Now, I've done videos on the tires that I had on that fat boy, which are the stock Harley Davidson ones. And the front tire, at least, was wearing unevenly. And it was down to the wear bars on one side. No problem with that. And actually, when I filled out a form online, before we even talked price, I put in that specifically the front tire needed to be replaced. Because they want to know that stuff. They want to know the make, the model, all the add-ons, what's the mileage, and specifically damage and tire wear, which I put that down. So they knew the front tire, number one, had an issue. That's the first thing, but it didn't change the valuation when we made the deal. Now it does. Secondly, the back tire, I said, I disagree with you on the wear bars because it isn't anywhere close. And even in my videos, I think I said that the tire, I was surprised how much life the back tire looked to still have because it didn't look like it had hardly any wear at all. But he came back and he said, well, the tread's too low anyway. We can't sell it like that. And I said, okay. And he said, fat boys, the tires need to be replaced at 14,000 kilometers anyway, no matter what. Now, I hadn't heard that before necessarily. But I thought, okay, even if that's the case, you knew what the mileage was. The mileage was 13,400 some kilometers. So knowing the mileage and knowing that the front tire was, probably bitched, would you not think, well, the mileage, the front tire, we probably got to do both? Would you not put that in the valuation when you already apparently would have known that? In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, people may say, nope, you're completely wrong on this. But in my opinion, they just simply didn't look at that, didn't care about it, just wanted to give me a good valuation so I would sign a piece of paper and put some money down. That's kind of the way I looked at it. And then we get on to the clutch. And the issue with the clutch is not a hard thing to adjust. I've adjusted clutches myself. They are quite easy. But I was told that I would have to pay labor and parts being the derby cover gasket, which is basically more or less a big O-ring that probably costs about 5 cents that they'll probably charge you $5 for. Anyway, they wanted to adjust the clutch, and I said, well, I've been riding for 20 years. I never noticed any issue with the clutch whatsoever, but I was told, well, it's out of spec, needs to be done. We got to charge you for that. And to me, that was gouging to me. It's like, you're going to charge me for every little thing you can find with this thing, which to me, a little inappropriate. Not really a good way to deal with a first-time customer. And the dealership I had dealt with before these guys, the last bike I brought in to trade in, when I got it there, the battery was damn near toast. And they told me, you know what? You're buying a brand new bike here, we'll just throw in a new battery on it. Don't worry, we're not going to devalue the bike, free of charge, no big deal. And Harley batteries aren't really cheap. So, they're willing to give me a battery for nothing And these guys want to charge me for a 15-minute clutch adjustment. So I thought that was ridiculous. So I ended up talking to the manager, went over the situation with him, and I told him, look, I said, you're going to make money off my trade-in. You're going to make money off the sale of the new bike, and you're going to make money off the parts and labor of the work I'm going to have done on the new bike. So I said, you're making money at least 4 different ways here. Like, how much more do you need? So this is what he told me. He told me, first of all, your bike, the Fat Boy you brought in, was overvalued to begin with. We shouldn't have given you that valuation to begin with because it's not worth that much, which I think, again, is ridiculous. And then he said, you know, if I have to put on tires at my own cost, I'm not going to make any money off that bike whatsoever. Then he told me, as for the deal with the new bike, because we're selling it to you for MSRP, we're not going to make anything off that bike. We're not making a dime off that bike, which this is coming from a guy who's sitting in a big brand new dealership that they built last year. And he's not making any money off bikes because he's selling them to you for MSRP. What a great businessman. So yeah, like I'm not as dumb as I look, or best testing may indicate, but I'm not that dumb. You're making money off the sale, period. One way or the other. You're making money off it, or you wouldn't be selling it. So that's where it was. In the end, the dealership decided to eat $800 of the 17, and they wouldn't give me any more. Technically, they wouldn't give me any more, except they said they would do the first service on the bike, which is $500 to $600 Canadian, and they'll do that for free with pickup and delivery. And that's kind of where we left it. And I was like, just whatever, okay, fine, let's just do that. But it kind of soured me on the whole deal. And I said, like, you know, you're willing to, I'm the first time I've dealt with you guys, and you're willing to lose possible future sales of bikes, you know, service, parts, but that's kind of where we left it. And that was the end of the first issue. Now let's get to issue number 2, and this one deals with shipping of the actual bike. So when I first had the bike ordered, which, like I said, was about February 21st, I was told by the salesman, you know, we're looking at 2 to 4 weeks for the bikes into the dealership. At the time, I didn't think I'd be riding before that. Definitely not now, anyway. And so I thought, not a big deal. And he said the bike is built, crated, and ready to be shipped. And I thought, okay. And he said, but we don't have a VIN number, so we don't know where it is. And I thought, well, you know, they've got time. No big deal. So fast forward about 2 weeks till I have the issue with the valuation of the trade-in, which I just discussed. At the end of my conversation with with the manager, he says, just for an update on your bike, it's built, it's crated, it's ready to be shipped, but we don't have a VIN number, so we don't know where it is. Said, okay, you know, it's been 2 weeks. Thought they'd have some idea, but no. So I waited till a month had passed, and I got a hold of the salesman again, and I said, hey, do you have an update on this bike? Well, let me guess. It's built, it's crated, it's ready to be shipped, but no VIN number. Correct. They don't know where the bike is, no VIN number, and it's been a month now. So we're just past that 4 weeks. So I was starting to get a little pissy about that, to be honest with you. And I kind of stewed on it for a few days. And I thought, look, these guys have my trade-in. They've got my down payment. You know, like, they've got my financing set up, so who cares whether I get the bike, right? They've basically got what they want. And that's kind of the way I looked at it. So I thought, all right, okay. So I got impatient and I contacted Harley Davidson Motor Company. I basically just sent them an email, shipping on the heading, and it just said, you know, this dealership has ordered this bike over a month ago now. They can't get a VIN. They don't know where it is. They have no information on it. Who do I have to contact to get this rectified? Now that was about between 2 and 2:30 in the afternoon on a Friday. 4:30 in the afternoon that same Friday, so 2 to 2.5 hours later, I get a phone call from the dealership, and guess what? We got a VIN number now. The bike is going to be shipped right away. What a coincidence. Now, I have no evidence that it was my message to Harley that got them the VIN number. I honestly don't know that, but I'd have to say it's an awfully big coincidence that 2 hours after I contact the company, the manufacturer, the dealership has the information I want. Now, having said that, I have never heard of a customer going to the manufacturer to get the dealer his product to sell back to the buyer. I've never heard of that, and I've heard a lot of horror stories from dealerships, both car and motorcycle, and I've never heard that part where a customer is, having to get the product shipped to the dealership so he can buy it. But that's where that ended. I was pissy about it, but hey, the bike was going to be in transit, so at that point I was like, I'm just going to let it go as long as it gets here. And that was the end of that one, but now we have a third problem. So let's get to number 3. And number 3 deals with parts. So the bike gets to the dealership. It got there on a Monday. I got sent a message on Tuesday, and I got a picture with it. Actually, this picture right here, saying that the bike it's up on the lift, it's getting worked on. And I was like, excellent, great news. Now, the work I was having done on the bike was basically, I figured it's about a couple days work, basically. So not a horribly long time. So I waited for the rest of that week. Friday comes, goes, don't hear anything. Weekend comes, goes, don't hear anything. Monday, the next Monday comes. So now they've had the bike for a week, comes and goes, nothing. So Tuesday I get a hold of them. And I thought to myself, look, they've had the bike now for easily a week. They have like 2 days worth of work on it. It's got to be done. That's what I was thinking anyway. So I contact the dealership. I say, hey, got an update on when this bike's going to be delivered to me? And he says, well, no, it's not ready to be delivered yet. And I said, okay, well, how come? Well, because we're still waiting on parts. And I thought, this bike's been ordered for a long time. I thought, I said, that's an awful long time to be waiting on parts. And he says, well, they're probably back ordered. And I thought, okay. And at this point, I didn't really trust them or believe them. So I asked what parts specifically they're waiting on. And one of the things they're waiting on were, for example, those handlebars. They're Carlini Gangster Apes. So I went to Carlini's website and I looked them up, and it said there was 50 available. So I thought, okay, they're not back ordered. Not that I know of. So I came back and I said, well, do you know when you're going to get these parts? Because they're not back ordered. I said, when did you guys order them? Like, I want a date. So he gives me the date. The date is pretty much almost the same day that the bike showed up at the dealership. And then I got mad. And I said, okay, so let me get this straight. You ordered the bike in February. You didn't order parts. I put money down on the bike. You didn't order parts. You got a VIN number for the bike. Didn't order parts. I've got a bill of sale in my hand and financing set up. You didn't order the parts. You knew the bike was in transit on the way to the dealership. Didn't order parts. You waited till the last possible minute to order parts. And now my bike has been sitting in the dealership for at least a week and just sitting there. I've had bikes ordered by dealerships from the factory. And I can tell you I can tell you when the bike came in, they had the parts sitting there waiting so they could put it on the bike and it could go. And I couldn't figure out why they would wait that long and leave a customer sitting there waiting on parts that could have been ordered weeks ago. To me, it just makes sense that you would have everything ready to go when the bike got there so you could put them on and get it to the customer. Get him the product he has paid for, not make him sit there and wait. Anyway, I was told, well, that's our policy. Well, you know, I don't really like that policy, I'll say that. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of where we were sitting with it. So I said, well, can you give me the tracking numbers then so I know when they're going to be in? And he said, well, no, we don't have tracking numbers. The shipment doesn't have tracking numbers. And I called bullshit on that because I've ordered lots of parts from lots of different companies, including Harley, and I cannot think of one place that did not have a tracking number or some way that you could get a hold of the company and say, where are these parts? But nope, no tracking numbers, and you know what? We wouldn't give them to you anyway, even if we had them. So basically he said, you know, you're basically going to have to wait and we'll let you know when they come in. We expect them by the end of the week, was what I was said. Now, I'm already having trouble trusting these guys. So I'm pissed off. So when I'm done talking to him, I get a hold of Harley Davidson Motor Company again, and I get a hold of the dealership's parent company. Well, the next day, I get a phone call from the manager. And he doesn't leave me the most pleasant email because, you know, I'd contacted his parent company and they'd contacted him. And also, when you buy a new bike from Harley Davidson, they'll email you, usually, a survey. Well, I did the survey and it was not good. And he brought that up as well. You know, I want to talk about this survey that we're so terrible and all this. So I said, so I called him back and we had a conversation, and we weren't like, you know, motherfucking each other over the phone, but it wasn't the most pleasant conversation. We went back and forth about the issues, and I told him about the VIN number, getting that, and he said, no, you know, he didn't seem to know anything about that. So, you know, whatever. But anyway, that's how it went. He said, look, we're bending over backwards for you. He just said, like, what can we do for you? And I said, I was just kind of exasperated. And I just said, just get me the bike. That's all I want. Just get me the bike as soon as you can. And then you won't have to deal with me again. Except with the service, they still owe me. But I didn't think, God, I hope that's not going to be a problem. And he said, okay. He said, as soon as the parts get in, well, I'll have a guy on them. And that bike, as soon as it comes off the lift, it will be on a truck and it will be to you. And he lived up to his word on that. I'll say that, because that was a Wednesday I talked to him. The parts magically showed up right away, and the bike was delivered the next Friday afternoon. So, and I have to say, I like the bike. I like the work that they did to it. I'm satisfied with the bike. Nothing wrong with it. And actually, when I got it, which kind of surprised me, was it had aftermarket hand grips on it. They weren't the stock ones, and I don't know where they came from or why they were put on the bike, but they're about $100 Canadian value, so I'll take them. And that was basically the end of it. So after all that, I got the bike. I'm happy with the bike. But the buying experience to me was terrible. I'd never had any of those issues ever before with any other dealership anywhere. I don't know if anybody out there has. I would like to know. I'd like to hear the comments if anybody else has any horror stories. I've seen quite a few of them on the internet, but that's the buying experience I have. And I can't say that I will ever use that dealership again. It's very unlikely at this point. The only person I really didn't have, or the only two people I didn't have a problem with was the guy who delivered the bike, and the finance guy was actually, he seemed very concerned and went out of his way to try and make me happy, and he answered any question I had. He was very good. So, you know, that's one reason why I haven't named the dealership, for example, because I had a problem with the management, and I had a problem with the salesman. You know, not everybody there is I'd have a problem with, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, if you know where I live, just based on the details, you'll know where I'm talking about, but I'll leave it at that. It was not the greatest experience. I doubt I will ever use them again, and it's very possible that they lost a customer for life now. I won't go back to them for another bike. I can pretty much tell you that, and I'm not going to use them for any parts or service except the credit I have on this one. And if Harley Davidson is watching, which I know they're not because I'm an awfully small channel, I am a minnow in the Pacific, if you will, but you want to know why some dealerships don't do well? You want to know why Harley Davidson doesn't do well sometimes? It's because of this. They're more willing to get that money out of you right now and take their time doing stuff so that they don't spend a penny more than they have to. They're more worried about that than the future sales and customers. So that's my piece on that. I think I've taken up enough of your guys' time now, so I will let you go, get back to your life. Hopefully, if you are looking for a new Harley Davidson, you don't have the same issues I did. But if you do, I wish you well, and hope you're out on the road. Hope the weather's good. And until next time, we'll see you later.